بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بهديهم أما بعد. Yesterday's class was on what, Riyadh? Hajj. What did we say about Hajj yesterday? With all the rulings. All the rulings on Hajj?
No. What the meaning, linguistically,
What does the word Hajj mean? What does the word mean? In the Arabic language and also according to the Muslims. Good. What else?
How some of the incidents that can go on.
We mentioned the status of Hajj. The status of what? Hajj. Manzilatul Hajj fil Islam. Makanatul Hajj fil Islam. What is the status? And what's meant by that is importance, virtue, its position in the deen, its significance in the religion of Islam. Naam? What else did we mention yesterday? We mentioned something else as well. The ruling of Hajj. Hukmul Hajj. The ruling of what? Of Hajj. We mentioned the what? The ruling of Hajj. The author, he then says, رابعا العمرة. معنى العمرة. العمرة في اللغة الزيارة. وفي الشرع أفعال مخصوصة مذكورة في مواضعها. حكمها واجبة في العمر مرة. Question, or it says here that the word Umrah means, linguistically means what? Az-ziyara, to visit. To visit, that's what the word literally means. The word Umrah means to visit something, to go to a place. Now the author, he mentioned something that's very peculiar, very weird. He says, وَفِي الشَّرَعِ, as far as the Islamic meaning of the word Umrah, he says, أَفْعَالٌ مَخْصُوصًا مَذْكُورَةٌ فِي مَوَاضِعِهَا. He says specific acts, specific deeds that are mentioned in their proper places. Specific acts that are mentioned فِي مَوَاضِعِهَا, in their mawdi', in their proper place. A very vague definition. And one may say that Umrah means التعبد لله تعالى بزيارة البيت الحرام بأفعال مخصوصة على صفة مخصوصة أو بالتوافي والسعي والحلق أو التقصير. One may say is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal by visiting the sacred house, by visiting Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And when you visit, when you go there, you don't sit and drink tea, but you do specific acts, أفعال مخصوصة, such as tawaf, sa'i, last but not least, shaving or trimming the hair in a specific manner. Everybody clear on this? He says, what is the ruling on Umrah? What is the ruling on performing Umrah? The author's view is that Umrah is not preferable, it isn't recommended. He says that it's wajibah, it's mandatory. He takes the view of the ulama who say that you must do it at least once in your lifetime. Now, many of the ulama, they hold the opinion that Umrah is mandatory just like Hajj. And they have different proofs and evidences for this, which we're not going to mention all of them right now. وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ. Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, and complete Hajj and Umrah for Allah's sake. There's a long discussion regarding that ayah. Is it meant to actually start the Hajj and the Umrah? Naam. That it's mandatory? Or is it mandatory to complete and finish once you've started, once you've commenced them? Naam. Also, Abu Hudayfa, we have in the hadith of Jibreel, and certain fi alfaz wa riwayat, certain variations of the hadith of Jibreel, when he asked the Prophet ﷺ, what is Islam? He mentioned more than just the pillars of Islam, but he also says, وَأَن تَعْتَمِرَ, and for you to make Umrah. So we know the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam was reported by different companions. The famous narration is the narration of Umar, reported by his son, Ibn Umar, Naam, in Sahih Muslim, Naam. And we also have the narration of Abu Hurairah in Sahih Bukhari. It talks about the hadith of Jibreel. And we know, as we've said many times before, one hadith can have different versions. can have different variations, which are called riwayat, or alfaz, or awjuh, وفي وجه, وفي رواية, وفي لفظ, نعم, وورد كذا, وجاء. Everybody understand this? So as the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with the Sahaba, there may have been 10 companions with him, 20 with him, 5 with him. 3 of them may have reported it, 10 may have reported it. They may all agree on one single unified narration. Some of them may summarize what they saw, what they heard. Some may give all of it. Some of the Sahaba had strong students. Some had students that weren't that. وهكذا. Different reasons why there are discrepancies in one what? One story. One what? One story. Everybody clear on this? And then there are some times in which there's the ulama of Islam, they say ta'addud al-qissa. They say that the story happened more than once. That the Prophet said this what? More than once. Or this woman came complaining about her husband what? More than once. And then other times in which is this what? It happened one time. Everybody clear on this? So the narration of Jibreel alayhi salam, the hadith of Jibreel, reported by different companions, and one of those alfaz, and one of the narrations, it says, when he was asked about Islam, he says, وَأَن تَعْتَمِرَ. And for you to make what? Umrah. So some of the ulama of Islam, they hold the view that Umrah is what? At least once in your lifetime. Everybody clear on this? Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. That's in brief. And it's more than a benefit for us in the beginner's fiqh to understand just the view in itself. Because many of us may not even know or have not even heard that is what? Some ulama even consider it to be wajib. Knowing that something is a fiqh issue is a level of knowledge. Knowing that there's difference of opinion is a what? A level of knowledge. Knowing the proofs and evidences is a what? A level of knowledge. Learning how to decipher and to choose your own view is also a وهكذا. Everybody clear on this? طيب, moving forward. He then says, حكمة مشروعية الحج والعمرة. من الحكمة في الحج والعمرة تطهير النفس من آثار الذنوب لتصبح أهلا لكرامة الله تعالى في الدار الآخرة لقوله تعالى من حج هذا البيت فلم يرفث ولم يفسق رجع كيوم ولدته أمه. He says, what is the wisdom of Hajj being from the deen? Why do we make Hajj? What is the purpose of Hajj? Why do we travel all of these miles, spend all of these dollars, and go, as we said, to the black stone, this rock, this masjid, and circumambulate, walk, and run back and forth? What's the purpose of this? What is the purpose of this? We also explained this yesterday in the class, a faida with regards to da'wah, to atheists or people that are jealous, malicious Christians that try to attack Islam. And they try to say that Islam is a religion of polytheism. It's a religion of idol worship. And the biggest idol, the greatest idol is they say the Kaaba, the black stone. And they say, or some of them, they say that the only reason why the Muslims walk 7 times around the black stone is to represent planets orbiting and the different worship of the stars and the moons of Nimrod and Abraham. They say this. And that the Prophet of Islam, he didn't abolish this. He forgot to get rid of that part of the polytheistic practice. Everybody clear on this? And the list goes on what they say. And we debunked that statement yesterday. How can Abraham make a huge, gigantic idol, tell his followers to walk around the idol, him and his son build the idol, and he's the one who broke and smashed the other idols and was tortured and punished and persecuted for that? How would he tell the people, or why would he tell the people to walk 7 times around the stone, symbolizing planets in orbit, when he's the one who denied and rejected the planets being worshipped and lied for that cause, as Allah clearly says in the Quran? Everybody clear on this? That doesn't make any what? Sense. And this is the case of anybody who tries to attack the Quran and Islam. He takes one thing and he leaves off 10 other things. Everybody understand this? And we also said from the most useful tools of a scholar is strong common sense. Not the only useful tool, not the only tool, but from the most useful tools is good, solid common sense. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? You got this or not? Everybody understand this? It's from the most important tools. It's to be strong fundamentally. It's fundamentally sound. Everybody clear on this? One of the most important and most useful tools for a champion boxer is a good strong jab. Other punches, this come, that comes, but a good, solid, strong, sharp, crisp jab. It's one of the most important tools because it sets up so many other things. It sets up so many other punches. Everybody understand this? And it disrupts your opponent so much and breaks his rhythm what? So much. So common sense, strong common sense in the deen. Everybody understand this? Sound common sense will destroy somebody that's trying to come say this and say that. Because you're going against common sense. Everybody clear on this or not? How can you say something so stupid and so horrendous? The Islam, everything about Islam is against polytheism and idol worship. And you say that the Kaaba is an idol. Everybody understand this? And the one who with Yarfa, Allah says, and remember when Abraham and his son erected the foundations of the Bayt. And Abraham was the one who did what? Allah talks about him and the idols in how many places? How many surahs? Multiple surahs. So whether you believe in the Quran or not, whether it's right or wrong, false, true or a lie, but it's in one book that you're trying to critique and find fault in, that doesn't make what? Sense. So how could it be so obvious, this major contradiction in the Quran, and all of these Muslims over 1400 years, black, white, yellow, and red, from east to west, north to south, all read the Quran, and you're the first person in 2017 to say, oh, this is a major contradiction. Look at the big idol in Mecca. That's just, I mean, you've disqualified yourself at any type of scholastic critic. Everybody clear on this? We mentioned this yesterday. So from the wisdoms of Hajj, he says here, number one is to purify the self, to cleanse, to clean the soul. Tathirun nafs is to purge yourself of dirt and filth. That is a result of sin. And the purpose of this is for you to be qualified. He says, litusbiha ahlan, for you to deserve the nobility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life and in the hereafter. Karamatillah. To visit his home, to be in Jannah. Everybody understand this? So he says the main wisdom of Hajj is cleansing of the soul, purification of the soul. Now, and we also explained this as well in our conference on fasting, that purification of the soul is from the foundations of the deen, min usul ad-deen, to cleanse the soul. Now, it's a basic pillar of Islam to do what? Cleanse the soul. Why do you pay zakat? Except to cleanse your soul. Why do you pray except to cleanse your soul? Allah is bigger and better. Allah is greater than anything and everything that you can possibly have. Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater than my own nafs. Allah is greater than my desire, my lust, my greed. Purification of the what? Of the soul. Fasting is to do what? Purify the what? Soul. Of desires, of lack of discipline, of lack of control, of greed, of lust. And Hajj is also what? A means of what? Purifying the soul. There are other wisdoms, there are other benefits, but this is one of the most what? Major points, is to purify the soul. And just think about how many things or how many ways the soul is purified when you make Hajj. First of all, spending money. And money is something that's beloved to the what? To the soul. It's my money. I worked for it. I saved it. I can spend on other things, but you spend on Hajj. Then you have to go out of your comfort zone. You don't eat how you normally eat. You don't dress how you normally dress. You may be a noble person, quote unquote. You may be a person who doesn't mix and mingle with the peasantry, with the lowlier folk, the commoners. But no matter what type of millionaire you are, what type of billionaire you are, what type of noble lineage or blood you have in your veins, supposedly, when you make tawaf, you make sa'i and Muzdalifah, you're mixing with what? The lowest person in your eyes. So that is a means of what? Purging yourself of that pride of jahiliyyah. Everybody understand this? And the list goes what? On and on and on. So he says here, for a person to deserve the karama, the gifts of Allah, the things that Allah will give in His bounty in the hereafter. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, anyone who makes Hajj to this Bayt, he says, فَلَمْ يَرْفُثْ وَلَمْ يَفْسُقْ, and he doesn't utter any obscenities. He doesn't behave in a lewd manner. He doesn't fight and growl and have scorn. Then he returns to his home like the day in which his mother gave him birth. Like the day in which his mother gave him what? Birth. Purifying all of his sins. Now, the question is for you, Abdul Raqib. In Islam, when you perform righteous deeds, do those righteous deeds remove major sins? You don't think so? Do they remove any sins? Minor sins. No doubt that certain deeds remove what? Sins. We can agree on that. We can agree on what? Sins. إِن تَجْتَنِبُوا كَبَائِرَ مَا تُنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سيئاتكم وندخلكم مدخلا كريما. Allah says, "O you believe, the believers, in tajtanibu, if you avoid kaba'ira ma tunhawna anhu, the major things that you are prohibited from doing, Allah says, we will expiate your sayyat, meaning sins. Regardless whether it means smaller sins, minor sins, Allah says, sayyatikum. Everybody clear on this? The Prophet ﷺ tells us about the 5 daily prayers, Jum'ah to Jum'ah, Naam, Ramadan to Ramadan, Naam. He says, Kafaratun lima baynahunna idha ijtunibat al-kaba'ir. There are means of expiation of sin as long as the major sins are what? Avoided. Everybody clear on this? So this ayah and this hadith and many others clearly show that a person's sins can be removed without making tawbah, without asking Allah's forgiveness, by just doing what? Righteous deeds. But the condition is clearly stipulated, and that is that it's not what? Kaba'ir. It's not from the what? Kaba'ir. Everybody clear on this? So the question is now, can a good deed or righteous deed wipe away or efface a major sin? Or only minor sins? Fadl Abu Bakr.
Yes.
It can. طيب. Based off of what?
Based off, in the other narrations mentioned that as long as the major sins are avoided, and in this narration, for example, in the narration that's talking about Hajj.
Right here, you don't have to go any further. You don't have to say other narrations. You just do what? Right here, what? Lead off batter in baseball. Your job is to do what? Get on the base. Everybody understand this? You're trying to hit a home run. You have to do what first? Get on the base. We explained this principle. Start with the closest proof that's right beneath you. And then you can work off that what? Momentum. You get on base, then you can steal a base to second. Then a bigger hitter comes. Then it's an RBI. Everybody understand this? We explained this before, Booker. Not this, not there, not kada. What? Start where? Right here. This hadith clearly states that the Prophet ﷺ says he will go back home when he leaves, when he finishes Hajj, Mecca, on the day in which his mother gave him what? Birth. And the baby was only born with major sins, right? Minor sins? It doesn't stipulate that. It doesn't what? It doesn't stipulate that. So Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he has a book that I bought in Medina some years ago, in which he explains how Hajj expiates all sins. All sins. Everybody clear on this? Kulluha. If it's the perfect Hajj. Everybody understand this? Other ulama such as Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, they argue that major deeds of righteousness with a certain amount of sincerity, and those deeds which prove salih, a great deal of kindness of the heart and regret and remorse, can also remove major sins as well. And the proof that they use is the hadith of the woman who was a prostitute. And other narrations mention it was a man. It doesn't necessarily say he was a prostitute or not. It was a man. They saw the thirsty dog that was so parched, dying of thirst, it started licking the cracked mud. You ever seen this before? Maybe not in America, or maybe not on the East Coast. In Saudi Arabia, overseas, because it doesn't rain but so much, they have the automatic watering system for the palm trees. On the sidewalks, a little plastic thing, and it bubbles up. So in the morning or every 2 days, it'll fill up the border of the concrete where the mud and the dirt is, and it'll fill all the way up. If the dirt is here, but the concrete goes up to here, so they'll fill it all the way up, and then it'll just sit there, and then the water obviously will evaporate, and then you'll get mud. You have mud, damp mud, nah? And then the day goes by, 2 days go by, it gets hotter and hotter, and the mud starts to kick up. And if the water doesn't come back on, those cakes of mud will start to what? Crack up. It'll be like checkered. Everybody understand this? And if there's no water for a long time, then it becomes what? Totally dry and brittle, cracked up. Everybody understand this? So as if the dog was licking mud that was drying up and cracking up to get what? Moisture. Everybody clear on this? So the narration says that this woman, this prostitute woman, which is a major sin in all legislations, There wasn't a time in which prostitution was permissible. It's not like wine or other things, the spoils of war, certain things that were permissible for us, impermissible for others, or vice versa. Zina, as Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah mentioned, was haram fi jami' al-shara'i. He says in all scriptures, zina was haram. Everybody understand this? So he saw the dog, the man or the woman, and she felt bad for the dog, this poor miskin animal. Everybody understand this? So it says that she took off her boot, put it in the well, brought him up some water, and gave it to the dog to drink. And Allah accepted her deed, appreciated her action of righteousness, and forgave her of her sin. Everybody clear on this? Some narrations say it was a man, and others say that it was a prostitute woman. So Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah and others, they say this hadith proves that a righteous deed done at a time of need with a major amount of sincerity and concern could possibly wipe away a what? Major sin. Everybody understand this? Khair, inshallah, moving forward. The author, he says, Shurutu wujub al-Hajj wal-Umrah. What are the conditions for Hajj and Umrah to be mandatory?
Financial stability.
First, before we even go that far away, so we have to understand the difference between conditions of it being mandatory and conditions of it being what? Ahsanat. This is a what? A difference between something, conditions for an act to be what? Salih? Mandatory. And then conditions for it to be what? Valid. In other words, the deed could be obligatory upon you, but you didn't fulfill the conditions for it to be what? Valid. Or the opposite. The deed could be valid, but it wasn't necessarily obligatory. It was optional. Everybody on this type. So the first condition for a deed to be obligatory is what? Nope. That's not of it being obligatory. That's a condition of it being what? Valid. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but no. Sahib. He says what? Number one is Islam. If he's not a Muslim, then he's not necessarily held responsible for making Hajj. Number two, he says al-aql, sanity. Gotta be sane. If a person suffers from mental illnesses and a feast, he doesn't have to make what? Hajj. If he's he does not have to make what? Hajj. If he wants to make Hajj, he can make Hajj, but he doesn't what? He doesn't have to make Hajj if he's mentally ill. Number three, the third condition for being obligatory is what? Al-bulugh. A person has to be of age. A person has to be what? Pubescent. He has to be in puberty from fawqahu or above. He has to be at least what? In puberty for it to become what? Obligatory. Number four, he says al-istita'a وهي وجود الزاد والراحلة الصالحين لمثله. The fourth condition is al-istita'a, is capability. And it's not restricted to financial capability always. He says capability. And included in the capability is, first and foremost, he says what? Azad. You gotta have the funds. What's meant by the funds, Saleh? What's meant by funds? What's meant by money? What's meant by the cash, the cream? What's meant by that? Huh? Three things. Number one, the ability to go. Number two, the ability to survive while you're there. And number three, the ability to what? Make it back. Pay close attention. I have the money for a ticket, but I don't have the money for a hotel, for food, for this, for that. It's not what? It's not mandatory. Or I have the money to go, I have the money to be there, but even I have a return ticket when I get back because I was going for 2-3 weeks. Okay, I have late fees on my rent. My bills are cut off. They're shut off. I don't have enough money to come right back into the mix, the flow. Then it's not necessarily what? Mandatory. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody got this? You sure? Play it. He then says, وَالرَّاحِلَةِ. He says, and a person must have a beast. A good, solid beast. A riding beast. He says that is salih. That's strong and suitable. Whether that's an airplane, Airbus, a ship, your feet, Pat and Charlie, as they say back in the day. Everybody understand this? Bike. You ever seen someone make Hajj on a bike?
No.
See, there's a group of brothers from London. They're biking all the way. They left like 2 weeks ago. So,
Allahu Akbar. How long does it take them to get to Arabia?
I don't know. It's been almost like 2 weeks already. So
And they're not gonna have any problems going through the borders and stuff?
so far not yet. They've been posting pictures along the journey.
Allahu Akbar.
I just see it sometimes on Facebook.
طيب خير inshallah. Al-Muhim is that you have to have a suitable what? Beast to ride upon. Khayr inshallah, and obviously anything that is attached to this beast. The tickets, you have to pay for it, you understand what I'm saying to you? Gas money, whatever the case may be. Everybody clear on this? طيب. And this is an example here of the universal, yani, shuf, how Islam is so comprehensive, so universal, and it's never outdated. Everybody understand this? The word beast, anything is included in that. Like I said, a bike, your shoes, your feet, a camel, a donkey, a horse, a spaceship, a jetpack, huh? A dirt bike, a motorcycle, as you see people doing, huh? All of these things included in a what? A rahila. Everybody just on that. طيب. He then says, لِمِثْلِهِ, that is good for the trip. Not just any what car or any ship, but that's what? For the trip. Strong enough for the trip. He then says, number 5, the 5th condition for Hajj to be obligatory, kamalul hurriya. Person has to be a free man. If a person is not free, if they are a slave, they're in bondage, Hajj is not what? Not wajib upon them. Number 6, وتزيد المرأة شرطا سادسا وهو المحرم فإن حجت بدون محرم أثمت وحجها صحيح. As far as women, they have a 6th condition. They have a 6th condition that men don't have, and that is for her to have a what? A mahram. So if a woman does not have a mahram, Hajj is not what? Mandatory upon her. She does not have to make Hajj if she doesn't have a mahram, according to the author. He says, as far as if she makes Hajj without a mahram, then she went against the rules. She broke the rules. She disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. But her Hajj, if it was done correctly, then it's still valid. Because the mahram has nothing to do with Hajj. In most cases, people travel to go make Hajj, but not everybody. Not what? Not everybody. Everyone doesn't have to travel to make Hajj. Someone who lives in Mecca. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? She doesn't need a mahram. She's there already. She doesn't have to travel. Khair inshallah? So these are 6 conditions for Hajj to be what? Obligatory. If these conditions are not met, then the Hajj is not obligatory. Now, let's ask some questions now. Is it mandatory for a man to take his wife on Hajj? You say no. I didn't mention anything about that. I never said that. Is it mandatory, Abu Bakr?
To take her?
Yes, to sponsor her and take her.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not mandatory, even if he has the money.
If he has the money, then that's...
Listen carefully. He has the money, in abundance. It's not a problem. Does he have to take her on Hajj?
Yes, so
He has to,
if you ask.
if she asks. Right.
First,
He doesn't have to.
Because Hajj is a personal obligation.
Personal obligation. Right. In other words, Hajj was a mandatory upon her before she was married to him.
If she has the means.
In general, the 5 pillars of Islam.
Right, if she has the means, it would be falls on her also. Oh, stop, yeah.
Stop. In general, it's from the what? 5 pillars of Islam. Everybody clear on this? In other words, one may say that when we say the conditions of something being mandatory, it doesn't mean that a person shouldn't strive to fulfill the conditions. Understand or not? Type. Let's say this, Lutfi. If you don't have money, you don't have to make what? Hajj. Clear. Type. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to save money, be economic, get a Hajj group in order for you to fulfill one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Everybody clear on this or not? In order for you to fulfill one of the what? 5 pillars. What's meant here is you just don't have the money. You can't get it. It doesn't work out for you. It doesn't matter, so on and so forth. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't. You should just be nonchalant and say, well, I don't have the money, so, I don't have to make Hajj. But if you have the ability to strive towards it, then you should what? So the general rule, Abu Idris, is that your wife had to make Hajj before you what? Marry her. Not meaning that she had a mahram or she had the money, but it was one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Everybody clear on this or not? Is that the Hajj is an individual obligation and it has nothing to do with marriage now. Nor is taking your wife on Hajj mentioned by the ulama of Islam to be from the huquq of the wife. The things that he must fulfill. Her food, her drink, her clothing, her lodging, her medical treatment. Everybody understand this? Her food, her clothing, her lodging, where she stays, and her what? Her medical treatment. They don't mention that he has to take on Hajj. It's not mandatory. If he does it, obviously it's a virtue. It's an excellent virtue. Bidnai ta'ala. If you have the money, why wouldn't you take your wife on Hajj? Unless, other reasons. You might not want to travel with your wife. We don't say that on camera, huh? Some people always fight, always argue. Say, my wife's going to get on my nerves. I'm not taking her to Saudi Arabia with me. 12-hour plane ride. Thousands of dollars for her to nitpick. Huh? Lie. She can stay home and do that. Everybody understand this? Unfortunately. I'm moving forward. The author, he then says, إذا أحرم الصبي بالحج صح نفلا وتلزمه حجة الإسلام إذا بلغ إذا مات من لزم الحج ولم يحج أخرج من تركته مال يحج به عنه لا يحج عن غيره أو لا يحج عن غيره من لم يحج عن نفسه ويصح أن يستنيب قادر وغيره في النفل حج أو عمرة. 3 sub-points. He says, number 1, whenever there's a child, an infant, an adolescent, who makes Hajj, they make Ihram, they go into Hajj, then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, it will be valid and accepted, inshallah, as an extra act, voluntary act of Hajj. And when this child or this adolescent, when they grow up, they become in the age, they now must make what? The Hajj of Islam. And it's insufficient to take your baby on Hajj and say you don't have to make Hajj when you get older. As nafil, it counts. Bidnai ta'ala, it's a recommended Hajj on a scale of good deeds. But it does not suffice, it does not substitute the place of what? The mandatory pillar of Islam. Khairan, inshallah. Number 2, he says anyone who dies without making Hajj, and they were capable of doing so, it was mandatory upon them to make Hajj, he says, then the wealth that this person leaves behind, his estate, his possessions, before the people get their share and this and that, how much? He says, أُخْرِجَ مِنْ تَرَكَتِهِ. The amount for someone else to make Hajj for him must be taken out of his wealth. With the condition that he had to make what? Hajj. So let's make a scenario for this. We have a brother who is retired from work, or even before he retires. But let's say a person retires. They're 65 years old or 60 years old. Some brothers retire early, some sisters retire early. Say a person's 50, right? Or 55, 65. They have good strength. He's strong 65. He's not old. He's not weak. He's not have many ailments. He can clearly perform Hajj. And he has in his bank account or his savings or pension or whatever the case may be, how much? $80,000. That's not including the other money that he has saved, so on and so forth. $80,000. Everybody clear on this? And he had this $80,000 in his account. He didn't have any debts. There weren't any things that prevented him from traveling. He had the ability to make Hajj. And let's say he lives for another year. He turns 66. Or let's say he's 65 years in one day. And then he gets into a fatal car accident. Or he has a heart attack. Or he's shot with a stray bullet. Everybody clear on this? Something like this. He leaves behind how much money? At least $80,000. So before his wife, his children, this one, that one, this money, this donation, so on and so forth, how much must be taken out of the $80,000? Minimum $10,000. For somebody, relative or not, to do what? Make Hajj on his behalf. Why is that? Huh? He couldn't make it? Who said he couldn't make it, Sheikh? We didn't understand the scenario. He had the ability to make it. He had $80,000, let's say for a year. Or let's say he had 10,000, 20,000 for many years before he retired. All of those years that he had the money, he had the physical strength. There wasn't anything preventing him from making Hajj. He was now what? Responsible for making Hajj. And he died without what? Without making it. He was held responsible for what? Making the Hajj. So therefore he has to pay for it now. His heirs, they must take at least 10,000, 12,000 out of his money to send somebody what? On his behalf. Everybody clear on this? As far as if he was 65 years old and he didn't have no pension, no money, nothing, or he was extremely sick and ill, whatever the case may be, then that's not the case. What? It's not the same case. He's not held responsible for making what? Hajj. Or a woman who didn't have a mahram, nothing. Everybody understand this? A woman, she had all of that money. She had a mahram. She had the ability to go. Her father invited her. Her husband, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go there. And she died without making it. It's now what? Everybody clear on this or not? The third issue he says here, no one is to make Hajj for someone else unless they themselves have performed Hajj themselves. Hajj of Islam. Not a recommended act of Hajj, but a mandatory act of Hajj. No one can make Hajj on someone's behalf unless they themselves have what? Done the Hajj. Everybody clear on this? You cannot make Hajj on someone's behalf unless you what? Make the Hajj yourself at least once. The mandatory Hajj. As far as with regards to recommended Hajj, then you can get someone else to make it on your behalf, he says. Labas. You've made Hajj already for yourself. They've made Hajj already for themselves. And you pay for them to what? He says, or even he says recommended here. He says nothing. Let's move forward now. He says here, Anwa'ul al-manasik. The different types of Hajj. The different styles of making Hajj. The ways of making Hajj. Number one, he says, Umratun mufradah. It's isolated Hajj. Single Hajj. Solo Hajj. You just go and make what? Or not even Hajj, he says Umrah here. Excuse me, Umrah. You go and make what? What year do you have to make Umrah in? Don't know my answer to the question yet. The question is for Ahmed. What month? Any time of the year, not a specific month? You sure about that? Abu Idris. You can make Umrah any time of the year? Abdul Raqib. Anytime. Sheikh Mahdi, what you think? You don't know. Khalid. No. It's specific months. Okay. Can you make Hajj or can you make Umrah any time of the year? That's the question, Sheikh. Khalid. Everybody gave their vote now. Come on, you got to put it in there too. You don't know. Alhamdulillah. The first way of making Hajj, obviously we mentioned Umrah because Umrah and Hajj are what? They're cousins. Everybody clear on this? He says it's to just make a single what? Umrah. You get an Umrah package, you get into the state of Ihram, you wear the clothes of Ihram, you make the tawaf, you make the sa'i. If you wish to pray the 2 rak'ah behind the maqam of Ibrahim, you want to drink Zamzam, you shave your head, you trim your head after you make the sa'i. Umrah is what? Done. 2 hours, 5 hours, depending on how crowded it is. Many times we made Umrah really quick, really quickly, when it's empty, you be done like that. You may be traveling that day. You have a flight in a couple of hours in Jeddah. You want to make an Umrah before you go back to America. You want to make Umrah before you go back to the UK. Umrah, depending on how crowded it is, doesn't take what? A lot of time. Especially depending on what type of Umrah you make. You stop, you make all the adhkar, you make all the recommended acts, or you just do the what? Bare minimum. Tawaf, sa'i, done. Everybody clear on this? So the first way is to just make it what? Umrah. Any time of the year, to just make it what? Umrah. Then number 2, he says Hajjun Mufrad. It's to make a Hajj, which is single. Only make Hajj, not Hajj and Umrah. Just to go make what? Hajj, that's it, nothing else. Can this be done any time of the year? No. When can it be done? It has to be in Dhul Hijjah. طيب. It has to be in Dhul Hijjah. Hajj Mufrad. طيب. Number 3. He says here, Hajjun wa Umratun Maqrunani. He says it's to make Hajj and Umrah and they're merged, they're linked together. Simultaneous. Everybody understand this? What does that mean? One ihram. What does one ihram mean? One terry cloth? One pair of Crocs? One waist knapsack? What does that mean? One ihram.
And when you enter the state of ihram,
When you put on the terry cloth, right? Take all your clothes off at the miqat. La. You let me trick you up, akhi. You were on the right path until I came. And then you deviated. طيب. What is ihram?
ihram is
Intention to do what?
there are going to be certain things that you're going to be restricted.
طيب. What time is it then, Lutfi? Right now? What time is there then? What time is Salat today? What's
9:50.
the then or the Iqamah? And what time is there then? 9:38. It's time now? Okay, inshallah, we're going to stop here. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. Perhaps after the then we'll take a few questions if possible. Inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu alam.